Okay, so we absolutely have to refer to this story that was just breaking this morning about the government agreeing an extradition and mutual legal assistance treaties with the United Arab Emirates, because on the face of it, this looks like it is game over for the Kinahans.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the complicated nature of extradition proceedings should be so much more simplified, but on the basis of this. Obviously, this is happening with the Kinahans in mind. There's almost nobody else beyond the Kinahan Organised Crime Group that is wanted in particular in Ireland from Dubai. So it's probably game over, realistically.
Now, funny enough, there is a few.
Yes.
I'm not going to name them because, they're kind of wanted here on things that they're not necessarily before the courts, or they mightn't necessarily before the special, but there are a few I've been told of that are in Dubai.
There are a couple of kind of financial people, if you will, for want of a better term, that are business people.
So Justice Minister Helen McEntee is going out to Abu Dhabi next week following these negotiations with her Emirati counterparts. Now, I was told, even though there was no publicity around it, and I can't completely and utterly say it's 100%, but that she's already been out there.
Yeah.
Now, it would suggest that she's got to this stage of extradition agreement.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, this has to be complex. I mean, extradition means that you sort of accept one another's laws, and that if somebody is in your territory, you'll hand them back.
Yeah.
But there are laws in the Emirates and in other parts of the Middle East that we wouldn't agree with at all. Like, for example, drinking in public places.
Yeah, there's all sorts of public morality laws in Dubai. Obviously, I think public drinking, you are allowed to drink alcohol. I think public drinking.
You're only allowed to drink alcohol in designated places in Dubai.
Exactly. So there's all sorts of public morality laws.
I did have to choose that one because, I mean, that is probably the most complex thing that Helen McEntee has had to sort of unravel.
Well, I mean, would it in theory, this extradition treaty, it obviously works two ways. So if there was somebody who'd ended up in Ireland who'd been arrested in Dubai for public drinking,
well, that's my point.
Would we have to send them back?
That's my point, exactly. So that this extradition agreement that they've come to has to kind of give and take, I imagine. I mean, we have had to stand forthright with the Emirates and say there's no way we'll be sending somebody back on this charge, on this charge, on this charge. Wasn't there an Irish girl found herself in prison in
She did. She was a victim of domestic violence, and she found herself in prison for charges actually to do something to do with alcohol. But obviously that case was dropped and she was allowed leave. But that is an example of obviously something that wouldn't...
we would find abhorrent.
However, we don't know the details of the treaty, but it's likely to focus on, I suppose, serious crime. Serious crimes like murder. So murder, as I said before, is a crime in every jurisdiction. So saying it's obviously a crime in Dubai, and the equivalence there is quite easy to meet. So I don't think it's going to cover cases like public morality or I think infidelity can be criminalised in Dubai. I'd say it's quite a narrow treaty, but it certainly is a big coup for the government. I think there was a feeling at one stage that the Irish were maybe small fry on the world stage, and that the UAE wouldn't be concerned about sort of bad publicity or pressure from the Irish government. So they have been really persistent and certainly behind the scenes, and it has paid off at this point.
Yeah. This comes obviously on foot and immediately in the aftermath of the Sean McGovern arrest and detention out in Dubai. So this has obviously been in the background, in the ether. Yeah. And we talk about paperwork and all the rest of it. I got an interesting contact from somebody out there. I'll need to go through it with you. And it was basically suggesting that that's a load of nonsense, that really this is a complete monarchy.
Well, look,
did I send it on to you?
No, you didn't. But I think in the vein of that, the treaty is about to be signed with the Emirati Minister for Justice, His Excellency Abdullah bin Sultan Bilawad Al Nuami. So, I mean, that is like...
That is the worst pronunciation of that poor fucker's name ever.
Quite possibly. But, you know, I mean, there are, like, look, the Minister for Justice is, you know, His Excellency. Yeah. So, I mean, it is effectively, it's not a democracy.
No.
It's so, there are laws there. Obviously, there's a legal system, there's judges, but there's no doubt that the decisions are made by political figures, and those political figures are people that have inherited them as a result of being the son of somebody. Effectively.
They're monarchs, they're the kings and the princes and the this, that, and the other. And of course, there was always that, you know, thing that Kinahan had made a very close contact with a sort of a bratish son of one of the royals, and he obviously had made, I mean, I think when we saw that he'd been given that job that time in Bahrain, which was very quickly taken from him, but that was a job, like, was that, am I dreaming that this was a job involving the Ministry of Sport or something in Bahrain?
Well, I mean, like all of these countries, they're not democracies, and also private enterprise generally in that part of the world can often be funded by the state. So we've seen, for example, the Saudi government, for example, buy a Premiership club. Now, they've bought it through a company, but effectively people believe it's funded by the state itself. So it was something similar to that. This was a sports company that was owned or partly funded or partly owned by the state. And they openly do this. They're trying to diversify away from fossil fuels and get into other businesses. But yeah, Daniel Kinahan was posing with, you know, serious officials. And certainly it's amazing actually when you think back to it, because at that point the idea that he would be untouchable, it just wasn't there. So yeah, I mean, we can't underestimate the fact that this is just not a democracy, and they will make their decisions, and then the treaties will be written up and the laws will be written to suit it.
There are very strong political messages that are being sent to Dubai, to those that are living there and who are, in particular, members of the Kinahan Organisation under sanction. Frightening messages, no doubt, for Daniel Kinahan himself, you know, coming straight after the arrest of his best friend and confidant, Sean McGovern, who we spoke about during the week, that he's in this pretty nasty prison awaiting extradition home. But just a slight spanner I'm going to throw into the works, because a colleague of mine in Belgium, as I have this very sort of train-spotting-y group WhatsApp with a couple of crime correspondents from the various different countries who have connections with this, and we keep one another updated. But I did put out the story about this agreement being signed and sort of followed it up with a text to the group saying, looks like it's game over for the K's. And my colleague from Belgium, Joris van der Aa, came back and said, Belgium signed one of these too. Yeah. And he said, very slow. They've had 2 criminals back and they have requests in for 50.
Yeah, and also the Dutch similarly did sign a similar agreement, I think, last year at some point. So again, you know, if the extradition request is refused, you don't get to sit in court and hear why it's refused. Yeah. You don't get a judgment printed out from the judge. You don't get a right to appeal it in the way we would here. You don't get to bring it to a Supreme Court if it's failed. It's all a mystery. Yeah. But I do think overall, I think Dubai are being forced to take action because they have, just sheerly because of the bad publicity. I think they've looked at this dirty money, this wave of dirty money and organised crime, and I think they think this isn't a good future for us. It might have helped us build this city, but we don't need them now anymore, and I think they are going to be gradually kicked out.
And especially as we described some of the, you know, what's happening really between Israel, Iran, all these countries that have kind of gone to war, and, you know, what the perspective is. The likes of the United Arab Emirates would like to keep their friends, probably in Europe and definitely in America, closer
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly the Hezbollah, the links Hezbollah and the Iranian regime have are going to come under increasing focus. I mean, particularly if Donald Trump is elected, who has, made a very explicit threats, against Iran at times and recently. So all of those countries probably want to clean up their act. I mean, the Saudi government have been very close to the Trump regime. So that's all another bigger picture, of course.
It is, but it leaves us with the kind of the situation that if Daniel Kinahan, his father, his brother, Ian Dixon, his cousin, and the last sanctioned Bernard Clancy want to move to get the hell out of Dubai with this treaty is signed, we spoke last week about the 3 places they could go: Iran, Russia, and where else?
Well, North Korea, I think, is almost impossible. Yeah. No, I mean, like Russia would be an obvious place. I mean, it's become, we reported it first, you reported it first, but it has subsequently, other people have reported it as well, that contacts between Russia, the Russian government and Christy Kinahan Sr. have been extensive. Russia has, it's already been sanctioned by the US. The money, they could go there, I think, would be the clearest place to go. The Russians aren't going to bow to, they're not going to extradite people to the US because of a request from the US. It would, but then again.
Is there any possibility any of them would just throw in the towel and come home?
Well, I don't.
Not Daniel Kinahan, obviously, he ain't going to do it, but the likes of Clancy or Dixon.
Well, I mean, are they wanted in Ireland even? I mean, that's the other matter.
I think anybody with information wouldn't be turned away.
No, I don't.
And I mean, they have to be starting to think seriously about their families now. They all, I think, have families, do they? I'm not sure Bernard Clancy has.
He does have.
Does he?
Yeah, I think
okay, a lot of them have families out there.
Yeah.
I don't think Dixon's family are out there, but, McGovern does, Kinahan does. They have children settled in schools and universities. They have partners. They have lives out there. You've got to start thinking the bigger picture here at this stage. And where do you send your family? Like, where does McGovern send his family now?
I don't know.
They have to come home.
They have. I mean, that would be traditionally what happens to these. And we've seen this again and again. People who rise to the top of organised crime, their families, as a result, of often innocent, often people that have, no involvement in crime, but they live that life. And when that life comes to an end, it really comes to an end. They don't leave a few million in the bank. Quite regularly, people that have been the partners of multi-millionaire drug dealers have ended up on social welfare within the space of a year, and genuinely on social welfare in some cases.
With their handbags. And their glad rags.
Yeah, and that's about it.
That's about it. Okay, well, look, we'll be back to this. Thanks, Niall. Oh, actually, before we go, you were supposed to remind me of this.
I was.
And I've had to remind myself. We have a really interesting episode coming up for you all on Sunday, which is an unusual day for us to post, but I think when Sunday comes and you get your notification, if you have... What do they have to do?
Well, they don't
subscribe to us.
Well, yeah, if they have the app, or they get.
Well, wherever you get your podcast, or if you get it on YouTube or whatever, subscribe so as you get a little reminder. But on Sunday, I can guarantee all Crime World listeners, you'd want to tune in for this one.
Yeah,
because this is going to be a biggie.
Yeah, and of course you've heard. Maybe to give a teaser. We've talked about the Kinahans. It could be to do with the Hutches.
It could be. It could be. So. Tune in. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.